So here we come back to Krishna, yeah, it was Krishna, right? The informational meetings. So I'm going to take a couple minutes and just remind you of how to conduct an informational meeting, because I'm sure you've all done it and we've been there multiple times. But here are some things that I see people make mistakes with. Number one, they don't come with their own agenda. You're the one who's calling the meeting, so you need to have your list of questions and conversation points that you want to make prepared. If you have to write them down and put them on a pad or in your portfolio and read from them, hey, so be it. But you need to show up ready to lead the conversation, which really means asking questions. Because that's what you're there for, is to pick their brain and get more information, right? You need to know something about the company before you go in there. I still hear HR managers all the time telling me that even seasoned professionals go into a job interview without ever having looked at the company's website and knowing nothing about the organization. Millery, I know. Shake your head some more. It's crazy. People actually do this. And it's so easy to learn about companies today. Why would you possibly do that? Right? Respect that 15-minute limit. You know, I did an informational meeting. It was now about 25 years ago. I was looking to make the transition from corporate to education, to higher education. And I was meeting with the Department of Aviation, the Dean of the Department of Aviation for Mercer County College in New Jersey. And I set up my 15-minute meeting, and we're having a great conversation. And I said, oh my God, Ed, it's already been 15 minutes. I promised you I wouldn't take more time than that. Can I ask you just one or two more questions and then I'll get out of your way? He said, hell no, you can sit here as long as you want. I'm having too much good time with you. I need to ask you a bunch more questions. 45 minutes go by and he says, Paul, this is it. I have to get you on my team. Let me go find my boss and see if they're available to talk. So 5 minutes later, I'm now in the VP's office having a conversation. And I said, listen, you know, I understand this is sprung on you. I don't want to take more than 10 or 15 minutes of your time because I realize you're a busy person. 45 minutes after that, she's now asking me for a proposal to come on board with the college. Right. So what I planned to be a 15-minute meeting, yeah, I put some buffer time in there, ended up being an hour and a half. I had 2 other networking meetings scheduled that day, and those meetings were, all 3 of them, about 35, 40 miles from my home. So I scheduled them all on the same day so that I could kind of just round robin, hit them all, and then come home in one day. I had to call the other 2 and postpone them to later in the afternoon because they took so much time with this first meeting in the morning. Not a bad thing, but holy mackerel. You ask for time, you respect the time, people will end up giving you a lot more. And don't forget, I want to get the names of your contacts. I want to know who you know that would be the right person for me to talk to get to the next step in the process. And we all know we need to send the thank you notes, but it's more than just the thank you note. You know, I need to send a thank you note tomorrow to Milry for allowing me to come and speak. And I'm going to send a thank you note to Gaddafi for taking the time to manage the technology and meet with me prior to the meeting so that we could be ready for today's conversation. Right now, I'm also going to follow up with Milry, at least, if not both of them, and say, by the way, next week, Gina, wink, wink, Gina reached out and is interested in talking to me more about some coaching services. And I'm really ecstatic to have that opportunity. So I want to just thank you for letting me talk with Gina. Right? I need to close that loop and go back to the people that give me other names, give me access to people, and let them know what happened with those conversations. Questions, thoughts, comments?
Paul, I'm not sure what others are thinking, and I don't want to hog this conversation because it's so good. But this whole idea of the 15 minutes and respecting people's time is just really invaluable. I mean, it may or may not go beyond that, but I think when you point out to them, hey, I promised 15 minutes, and just letting them know that you are aware that you've set a time, you don't want to impose on their other time that they've already committed to doing something else. It's just such a courteous and mindful thing to do. And I think it really, at least in my experience, it really has great value in relationship building, just respecting a person's time, actually saying to them, hey, I only needed 15 minutes of your time. Thank you for that. And then more often than not, they will say, hey, I've got a few more minutes or something like
That's
that.
right. That's right. And when they don't, they really don't. Right. But you can still say, well, that's great. Would you be open to a follow-up conversation? Maybe I can reach back to you tomorrow and we can set up a time for next week. Or do you have just another 30 seconds to pull out your calendar and we can set up another meeting time for next week? Right. But absolutely, the being respectful in any way, but especially of time, is really, really significant and impactful to people.